I'm Machoka Geoffrey from KISS University, and I've seen it wise to discuss this idea with the students of KISS University, probably courtesy of KISS University. I'm doing this because under the courtesy of KISS University on how to write a chemistry lab report. This is an expert advice, and anybody who comes across this content, try to use it in wherever you are. Try to share it to all students in chemistry labs, in chemistry classes, chemistry courses, and it will assist them as far as possible. Once more, I'm Machoka Geoffrey, KISS University staff. Okay, KISS University staff. Try to share the information, and you'll get more acknowledged on what you're doing in a class or in a lab. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Machoka Geoffrey, and I'm going to introduce chemistry lab report purposely for all students or in a university or in whichever case. When a person tries to say what is a chemistry lab report, and what does that person mean? A chemistry lab report is a technical document that contains accurate data on laboratory work. In the report, the student describes the theory, the instrument used in the laboratory work, the experiment courses, calculations, the results, and if necessary, specifies background information. Important to note, the report should be written by the person who experimented with avoiding mistakes and not confusing the reader. Most often, the report is written in past tense, and scientific style is used in that report. We need to go straight to basic elements of chemistry lab reports. Basic elements of chemistry lab report. The structural elements of the reports are: number 1, title page; number 2, introduction; number 3, purpose of the experiment; number 4, theoretical information; number 5, equipment; number 6, experimental section; number 7, calculated values; number 8, discussion section; number 9, conclusion on the work; last but not least, bibliography. Let's start with the element number 1, that is title page. For each type of scientific report, the title page is drawn up differently. However, for a chemical report, on the first page, you must place the following information as follows. Number 1, the upper field contains the full name of the educational institution. Number 2, in the middle field, report type, discipline and study name without question mark. Number 2, in the middle field, report type, discipline and study name without quotation marks. Number 3, in the first part of the page, write your initials. If you had a lab partner, add data about it. Please fill in the name, surname, and degree of the instructor reviewing the report below. Number 4, at the bottom of the sheet, indicate the place, and year of study. We recommend that you make a title sheet in a separate document. While writing your work, you are likely to make edits. If you correct the text after the cover sheet, the layout and formatting may be lost. Thank you. Let's go straight to element number 2, that is introduction. In the introduction, you need to familiarize the reader with the problem, topic, or questions you are researching. For example, if you have experimented with organic chemistry, then the report can indicate why science is essential. Write an introduction using the third person. This is an essential requirement. The first person pronouns are intended for the experimenter himself. In the report, the word I, we should not be included. Thank you very much. Element number 3, purpose of the experiment. In this section, you need to formulate the laboratory work goals, and objectives to justify its relevance. That is, you must state the degree of importance of the research. That is the main point. Another point, the goal of the lab is the results you planned to arrive at. When formulating a goal, you should use action verbs: explore, study, test, divine, and many more. After that, indicate the research object and the task that you wanted to solve, i.e., measure, consider, conduct, develop, and many more. The volume of the section depends on the depth of research and the complexity of the work. Most often, experimenters write in one paragraph or half a page. That is the main point as per the purpose of the experiment. Let's go to element of the chemical lab report number 4. That is brief theoretical information. Brief theoretical information. The central part of the work contains theoretical material and the description of the stage of the experiments. In the theory section, you can write the following information. Number 1, description of the subject being studied. Description of the subject being studied. Number 2, sources, i.e., scientific articles or books. Point number 3, we have laws, formulas, and calculations. Write the theoretical part in concise and understandable language. That is very important. You need to write the theoretical part in concise and understandable language. Each reader should understand what is at stake. Get my point. Each reader should understand what is at stake. Element number 5, that is technical equipment. Since you use specialized equipment to conduct your research, the report should mention what technical means help you conduct the experiments. For example, describe what burettes, volumetric flask, reagents you used in your work. That is what you need to describe. Thank you. Under the element number 6, that is experiment part, you need to discuss that element, and the theoretical and experiment part should be closely related. The theoretical and experiment parts should be closely related. You cannot set one task at the beginning of work and in the course of practice perform another. Get my point? You cannot set one task at the beginning of work and in the course of practice perform another. Also, the title of the experiment must meet the research requirements. It is the experimental part that shows whether there is a scientific novelty in the work. Mark that term. It is in the experimental part that shows whether there is a scientific novelty in the work. In this part, write only reliable, verified, relevant information. If you are asked where the specific numbers in the experiment came from, you should explain them. Let me repeat. If you are asked where the specific numbers in the experiment came from, you should explain them. Consider a small example of the experiment part. The lime method of obtaining sodium hydroxide consists of soda solution with slaked lime at a temperature of about 80 degrees Celsius. The process is called, causticization. It follows the reaction of sodium carbonate plus calcium hydroxide to form sodium hydroxide plus calcium carbonate. As a result of the reaction, a sodium hydroxide solution and calcium carbonate precipitate are obtained. Calcium carbonate is separated from the solution, evaporated to obtain a molten product containing about 92% of the mass. After sodium hydroxide is melted and poured into iron drums, where it solidifies. Thank you. Let's go to another element, that is data analysis. The experiment will not play a special role in the learning process if you do not accompany the article with a detailed analysis of the calculated values. The experiment will not play a special role in the learning process if you do not accompany the article with a detailed analysis of a calculated values. You must interpret the results of the experiment carried out and conclude from the numbers obtained. Mark that term. You must interpret the results of the experiments carried out and conclude from the numbers obtained. Thank you very much. Let's see the elements or the element of chemistry lab report, that is the discussion of the results. Discussion of the results. Students who are conducting chemical experiments should put forward a hypothesis in the introduction. When you are going to draw up a report, indicate how much the results correspond to the hypothesis put forward. Also, you should not especially significant, unusual, unexpected, or incomprehensible results at this point. Let me repeat that point. Also, you should not especially significant, unusual, unexpected, or incomprehensible results at this point. However, raw data which does not affect the experiment should not be specified. In this part, you can summarize the data and describe how they fit with the existing theories. That is, your task is to discuss the pros and cons of the received data. That's the main point. That is, your task is to discuss the pros and cons of the received data. In the conclusion part, that is as per the elements of chemistry lab report, conclusion, in the final part, you must confirm whether you have managed to achieve your goals and accomplish tasks. This section should briefly mention what have you researched. This section of conclusion should briefly mention what have you researched. That is point number 1. Point number 2, what measures were taken. Mark that, what measures were taken. Point number 3, what results did you get. Point number 4, what you built graphs, diagrams, and what conclusion were drawn on their basis. Let me repeat that. In this final part, you must confirm whether you have managed to achieve your goals and accomplish tasks. This section of conclusion should briefly mention, number 1, what have you researched? Number 2, what measures were taken? Number 3, what results did you get? Number 4, what you build graphs, diagrams, and what conclusions were drawn on their basis. In the last part of this element of chemistry lab report, we need to discuss about bibliography. You can draw up a list of reference. Number 1, in alphabetical order. Number 2, in chronological order. Number 3, in a systematic manner. Number 4, in order of citation. However, before you decide how you want to design your bibliography, study the style of APA, ASA, Chicago, Harvard. The manuals describe how to create headings and list of sections. Thank you very much. The highest, there is this question a student is trying to send to me here. How long is the chemistry lab report? And that is a very good question. How long is the chemistry lab reports? The length, let me say this, the length of the report should not exceed the scope of the laboratory work. The laboratory report should contain all the structural elements that the experiment includes. However, the sections need to be shortened. Otherwise, it will be copied text that does not differ in any way from real laboratory work. Most often, the report consists of how many pages? 8 to 10 pages. That is a real laboratory work. That report must consist of about 8 to 10 pages. That is a good student who have written a good chemistry lab report. Thank you very much.